Hello again, Steve here with a few words to just recount some of my experiences after having just completed a long drive of about 2,000 kilometers of winter driving, towing a trailer with some slippery roads, but a lot of darkness and a lot of the challenges that come with that, including going through mountain passes where it is just a single road and there are semi-trucks coming towards you on the other lane at 100 kilometers an hour, where the road is graveled for winter, for traction. Well, that has its challenges, all right. As you can imagine, most people have had the experience of a cracked windshield before. Oh, it's another expense, right? Got to change that windshield again. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how to prevent getting a cracked windshield, as I've learned, or how to increase the odds of preventing it, and relate that to how that can help us to improve the quality of our life in terms of life lesson, right? Now, the first way to, or prevent it, or how to deal with it really, okay? To all out prevent it, of course, would be to stay off the road. But if that's not a possibility in winter driving, especially in the mountains or where there's lots of gravel on roads, the thing to do is to try to stay as far away from the oncoming rocks as possible. Now, I'm going to explain to you, for those of you who've never driven in conditions like this, but it'll be just a reminder for those of you who have. There's really three ways that you'll get rocks flying at you. One is traffic oncoming that's passing very close by, because when there's winter conditions, you can't really get off the road sometimes that easily because there might be a snowdrift on the side. So you got to stay in kind of close, and there's lots of stones on the road that are there for traction on top of the pavement, that is, on top of the tarmac. Especially the semis coming flying towards you, they have many wheels on them. Some of them are B trains, they have several trailers behind. Big tires with big lugs, which get stones embedded in those lugs, and sometimes they come loose, or they just throw stones up behind them because of the wash, the vacuum in behind, or even just the tire hitting a stone at a certain angle and it flips it up. So but if something's coming off a wheel of a semi and it's going 100 kilometers that way, 100 kilometers an hour that way, and you're going 100 kilometers this way, that stone can hit your vehicle at 200 kilometers an hour, theoretically, right? Now, if it hits a headlight, take out the headlight. If it hits the windshield, it will crack the windshield or put what we call a bird's eye in the windshield. Or if it hits somewhere else, it'll just take a paint chip. So the way to prevent that, so that's one way, that the oncoming traffic, right? Another way is if you're following too close behind a vehicle. Something can get flipped up from their wheel, land on the windshield, and if it's big enough and it's cold enough out, because the windshield will crack easier when it's colder, I believe. So that's the second way. And the third way is when people try to pass you. You know, like I'm driving fairly slow because I was pulling a big trailer, so people would get anxious up behind on my bumper, and then as soon as there's a passing lane, they pass. And same sort of thing, when they're in close beside just passing, they can throw stones off their wheels and hit the windshield, crack the windshield. Now, and I'll just show you one example of, I didn't actually get a cracked windshield, so maybe my strategy has worked, but I'll just show you an example of a bird's eye, what I call a bird's eye. This is a small crack that you would get, that little thing right in the windshield right there. That's called a bird's eye. It's a stone chip, which if I don't get it filled, will eventually have a line crack in the windshield. So the way to prevent this as much as possible is to pull off to the side of the road when there's oncoming traffic, or if they're passing you, to pull off to the side a little bit, or don't follow too close behind. Don't tailgate, right? This is, like I say, it's not always possible, but where there's a paved shoulder, when there's a vehicle coming in, gonna pass, like coming towards you, move over a little bit. So when the stones are thrown, they'll go beside you rather than at you. And same thing when somebody's passing you on this side, wanting to overtake. Pull over a little bit. Leave lots of room beside. And then if they try to pull in front of you really quickly, back off, let off on the accelerator and give them some room, right? So these things I have found have helped. So that has to do with avoiding the various different types of rocks that are coming at. Next thing is, if we do get a bird's eye like I just showed you in there, to prevent a cracked windshield, then pull into a glass shop and have it filled. There's a special filler they put in there. You won't see the bird's eye anymore, and it glues any potential lines, microscopic lines that might want to run. It doesn't completely prevent it, but it's a great inhibitor of potential runs later on. Then, of course, if you get a big line crack, especially if it's in your face, then eventually have to change the windshield, which is several $100 expense, right, or more. Now, how is this an analogy for improving the quality of our life experience? Well, I would say that it's a good example of how there are things that seem to happen that we don't have a lot of control over. The example of that semi-truck tractor with trailers coming down towards me and me driving. Well, me driving, I have control over that. But the semi-truck, I don't really have control over. Somebody else does. So my attempts to avoid are examples of what I can control. The truck is an example of what I can't control. So it's just the reality of that there seems to be a distinction of controllables and uncontrollables. And so the focus is on what I can control. And the other thing is, in spite of all of these attempts to do the best with my controls, I still got a bird's eye on this trip. I don't know if it's possible to drive that distance of road more than once in a winter and not get at least a bird's eye, or potentially a cracked windshield. Everybody has cracked windshields in that case over time. So it's to accept it, really. You know, this is something that, to me, helps my quality of life, is not getting down on these things and not getting upset about it, because it's like the uncontrollables are what they are. And just to do our best, do the best inside of the controllables to mitigate the damage or the effects that are undesirable from the uncontrollables. So that's sort of a lesson I took from this experience of just hour after hour after hour of realizing there's another one coming, move over. There's somebody trying to pass, move over. There's somebody, I'm getting too close, back up a little bit. Of just ever being present to these things that appear to not be in my control, those other cars on the road. And this one being under my control on that same road. So I have to do something with this. And there's no sense getting upset at those rocks flying towards me, because it's what they do. So it's just a matter of making the best of it. And it seems to work. It seems to make a difference. So there's always, almost always seems to be an area of any challenge which we have input on. And when we realize that, it can help to improve the quality of our life experience. Because for one thing, in this case, I may have had to spend $300 or $400 for a new windshield. But as it turns out, perhaps because of my care of going over to the side and in a few days going into a glass shop and getting that filled, I won't have to redo this windshield for perhaps the life of the time that I have the vehicle. So, improving the quality of our life experience in relation to this one example of how to make the best of potential rock chips and cracks on the windshield when driving, winter driving, northern mountain roads, is to be as proactive as possible within the bounds of what is controllable, and forget about yelling at the other guys. because they're not going to hear us anyways. They're driving what they're driving. They're doing what they're doing. Be as cautious as possible and take steps to avoid those dangers. And focus on what is controllable while being aware of what is controllable. And as a result of that, we can help to steer our lives towards a better quality of life, I would say. So this is applicable to many different areas of our lives in terms of an analogy, right? Or an example. Just one example. Attempting to avoid rock chips and rock cracks on the windshield while driving in northern mountain roads. We can make a difference, even there. Imagine more important areas of our lives. Something to think about anyways. What do you think? My name is Steve. I'll sign off for now. It's been great chatting. We'll do this again soon. Bye-bye for now.